Dear friends, hello. Today we'll discuss about SQL. SQL is an abbreviated form of structured query language. We can pronounce as SQL. It is a query language for storing, accessing and modifying information in a database. In other words, it is a standard computer language for relational database management and data manipulation. SQL is used to query, insert, update and modify data stored in the database. Whenever we think of working with database, it involves 3 steps. First, we will create the database and its structure. From structure we mean creating the tables and putting required constraints for the tables. And second step is when the database schema is ready, we will store the real data into it. Now, after inserting data, we can update the data and when we can delete the data. Third step is to prevent the use of database from unauthorized access. We authorize various users for the limited access to the database. From limited access, we mean that one user will have the powers to insert the data, to modify the data and to delete the data. But on the other hand, another user may only have the access to view the data and he or she cannot do any other operations on the data. Thus, looking at the brief description, we can say that on the basis of the use and purpose, SQL can be divided into 3 categories. Data definition language, in short we say DDL, data manipulation language, in short we say DML, data control language, in short we say DCL. So, first is data definition language. As its name suggests, it is used to define the data. Thus, using this language, only database schema can be created, but the manipulation of data is not possible. By defining the data, we mean to define or create the schema of the database and defining, modifying, dropping the structure of a relation or table. It is also used to specify constraints on the table. Some of the basic commands of data definition language includes the very first and most basic command is create command. Create command is used to create a database and table. It is also used to define constraints on the table. So, in order to create a database, create command can be used as create database and then database name, then semicolon. Here create database is the command to create a database and database underscore name parameter is the name of the database that will be given to the database by the user. Here in this syntax, the keyword create database is defined by the system and cannot be modified, but the database name is user defined and be kept anything. But advice is to keep the name of the database in such a manner that reflects what type of data it is going to store. For example, bank database, enterprise database, etc. Create database tells the SQL server to create the database with the name specified in the command. For example, create database new base semicolon. This command will create a new database with the name new base. Here it should be noted that by creating a database, we are not creating tables in the database, nor tables will be created in it automatically. The tables have to be created by the user in the database. So, our next step is to use create command for creating a table. To create a table, create command can be used as, look at the syntax of the create table command. Create table, table name, field 1 data type constraints, field 2 data type constraints, and so on up to field n data type constraints. So, in this syntax we have keyword create table followed by the table name, then the details of the fields or attributes of the table are defined along with the constraints if there are any. Here create table is the command to create the table, and table name parameter is the name of the table to be given by the user. The field or attribute names like field 1, field 2, etc. specifies the names of the attributes, or we can say columns of the tables that we want to create in our table. The data type in the syntax along with the column name is to specify the data type of the column like integer, character, etc. Here data type means to mention what type of data are we going to store in this column. For example, if the column name is kept as roll number, we will give this column name as integer, because only integer values will be stored in this column as roll number. In this syntax, the constraints along with the column of the table tells us to define those restrictions to impose on the values of the column of the table. The various types of constraints can be not null, auto increment, etc. Let us take an example. Look at this command, create table customers, customer ID int not null, auto increment primary key, comma, name char 50 not null, address char 100 not null, email char 40, state char 2 not null. In this example, we are creating table with name customers, where customer ID is an attribute of the integer type having constraints not null. That is to put restriction on the column values that the attribute value cannot be null, it must have some value. Auto increment constraint specifies that it will be incremented automatically, and primary key constraint specifies that it is the primary key of the table. The name, address, email and state attributes are of the character type, in which name, address and state attributes can't be left blank. After creating the table, we may sometimes need to modify it. So, with the alter command of the Sql, we can modify the table schema. Thus, alter command is used to modify the table. It does so by adding or removing the columns or by changing the column data type. The syntax of using alter command is alter table, table name, add column name, data type. Here alter table keyword is used to modify the schema of the table, and table name is the name of the table which we want to alter. Along with this, we have the clause add column name data type. This add keyword specifies that we want to add new column to the table. Thus, after the add keyword, we will mention the user defined column name with its data type for adding to the table. For example, alter table new base add new underscore column varchar 20. So, in this example, we are altering the table new base by adding new column with the name new underscore column and its data type is varchar. Then next is to delete the column from the table. So, when we want to delete the column from the table, it is known as dropping the column from the table. So, the keyword drop is used to delete a column from the table. The column to be deleted is mentioned after the drop keyword. Look at this example, alter table new base drop new underscore column. Here in this example, we are deleting the column new underscore column from the table new base. Next is to modify the existing table columns, like adding new constraints with the column, changing the data type of the column, etc. This can be done by using the alter command. Thus, the alter keyword is used to specify that we want to modify some column in the table. Look at the example, alter table new base alter new column number. Here in this example, we have changed the data type of the existing column new underscore column from varchar 20 to number. Let us look at some more examples. Look at these statements. For changing column data type, alter table student alter last name varchar 35. This statement will change the data type of column last name of student table to varchar of size 35. For adding attributes or say columns to an existing table. So, look at this example, alter table student add admission date. So, this statement will add a new column to the table student by column name admission and data type is date. Date data type specifies that the particular column will save data of date type. For removing attributes or column, look at this example, alter table student drop home underscore phone. So, this statement will delete the column home underscore phone from the table student. The third and most rarely used command of DDL is drop command. The drop command is used to delete a database or table of a database from SQL Server. This command completely deletes database or table from SQL Server with all their data. The syntax for deleting database or table are as shown: drop database database name, drop table table name. In these two statements, keyword drop is used to specify that we are going to delete either database or table. The keyword after the keyword drop are used to specify the type of object that we want to delete, that is the keyword database specifies that we are going to delete a database schema from SQL Server, and after that keyword space for database name, that is database name is mentioned after this. Similarly, the keyword table is used to specify that we want to delete a table, and name of the table that we want to delete is specified by space table name. An example of using drop command in both the cases is as drop database employee. In this example, we are deleting a database whose name is employee. Next is drop table student. This statement specifies that we are going to delete a table with the name student. So, these were the basic commands covered under DDL, that is data definition language, and which are used for defining, altering and dropping the schemas. Now, let us move forward with our next sublanguage of SQL, data manipulation language, or in short we say DML. As its name reveals that this sublanguage is used to manipulate data. Using DDL, we have created the database schema. Now, next step is to add real data into the database. So, when we talk about applying commands on the data, we are talking about DML commands. By manipulating data, we mean to modify the instances of the database that are stored in the SQL databases. And here database instance means the data stored into the database at a particular moment of time. So, DML is responsible for all the modifications of data in the databases. This sublanguage modifies database instances by inserting, updating and deleting its data. It is also used to retrieve data stored in database. To perform all these functions, it has mainly 4 statements, namely insert statement. So, insert statement, as the name reveals, its own meaning. So, insert statement is used to insert data into the table. In this, the values to be inserted in the columns of the table is in the order of the column as they appear in the table. Also, the number of columns and the number of values in the statement should be equal. So, look at the syntax of the insert statement as insert into table name, column 1, column 2 up to column x, values, value 1, value 2 and up to value x. Here the insert keyword specifies that we are going to insert a row in a table. The table in which we want to insert row is mentioned in the table name parameter, as there can be more than one table in a database. The field column 1, column 2, column x is used to specify the name of the columns in which we want to insert values. It should be cleared here that if we want to insert values in all the columns of the table, then it is optional to mention column names. We just need to write values in the order as the column appears in the table. In the above syntax, the values keyword is used to specify the values for the columns in the table. So, the parameters value 1, value 2, value x specifies the values for the columns column 1, column 2 and up to column x. Look at this example of using the insert statement. Insert into student underscore grades, student ID, test name, score, grade, values 101, quiz 1, 88 B plus. This statement will insert values 101, quiz 1, 88 B plus in the columns student ID, test name, score, grade of the table student underscore grade respectively. Now, suppose that the table student underscore grade as only those columns that are specified in the example. Then in that case, the insert statement can be written as insert into student underscore grades values 101, quiz 1, 88 B plus. Here the values are placed in the order in which the columns appear in the table. Similarly, insert statement can also be used to insert multiple rows in one go. In the previous example, we have inserted only one row, but we can insert multiple rows in one table after selecting the values from those rows from some other table. Look at the following syntax: insert into table name 1, column 2 up to column X, select expression 1, expression 2 and so on from table name 2 where condition. In the above syntax, the rows are selected from one table and resultant rows from select statement are inserted into another table through this insert statement. Moreover, if the selected column values are selected for insertion, then the name of the columns in the same sequence is to be mentioned in the insert statement to insert those rows in the same sequence of column values. If all the columns are selected from the table name 2 and the name and the number of columns are also same in the table name 2, then name of the columns may be skipped while writing the SQL query. Consider an example. So, look at this SQL query: insert into table stu underscore name, stu underscore id, stu underscore marks, select stu underscore id, marks from marks underscore details. So, here in this example, we are fetching the columns stu underscore id and marks column values from the table marks underscore details, and the fetched rows are further inserted into the corresponding columns stu underscore id, stu underscore marks of the stu underscore name table using the insert statement. Through this query, multiple rows are inserted, copying from another table in one query only. So, with this we come to an end of today's lecture. Today we have discussed about DDL commands and insert statement from DML, and in the next lecture we will continue with the DML statements and DCL commands. Thank you.